does bread go from looking like this to looking like this? In the Gluten Monster video, we learned that gluten acts like numerous tiny balloons inside of bread dough. But how do these balloons fill with gas? That's where yeast comes in. In order to explain how yeast fills these little balloons, let's do an experiment. Fill a 1 or 2 liter plastic bottle no more than halfway with warm water. You want this water to be approximately 110 degrees Fahrenheit to make the yeast active and happy. Next, use a funnel or a piece of paper rolled into a funnel to place 4 tablespoons of sugar and 2 tablespoons of yeast into the water. I realize these quantities are overkill, but I want an interesting reaction. You can use less yeast and sugar if you like. I'm going to add some food coloring for the fun of it. Now you're going to shake the contents until the sugar and yeast are dissolved. Don't forget the lid. Mac decides to give it a little sniff. I think he's wondering if something edible will result from my strange behavior. If you have a balloon, place that over the mouth of the bottle. I don't have a balloon, and I'm not about to go buy a bag of balloons just for this, so I'll use what I have on hand. And it just so happens that Mac has the perfect thing for the job. He does appear a little embarrassed about the whole business, though. Even if you use a balloon, you may want to secure it tightly with a rubber band. This experiment may make a mess, so place the bottle in an area where it won't cause a problem if it overflows. If your balloon is small and you secured it incredibly well with a rubber band, it may even pop. As I finish attaching my makeshift balloon, let's talk about why we are doing this experiment. Whenever bakers make bread with active dry yeast, they have to do something called proofing the yeast. This simply means they are waking it up with warmth and food to make it active and happy. Unlike active dry yeast, instant yeast doesn't need to be proofed, but I always use active dry yeast since I can purchase a 2-pound bag of it very cheaply at the warehouse-style stores near me. Yeast is actually a fungus that feeds on sugar. As the yeast feeds on the sugar, it releases carbon dioxide gas, which will fill the balloon. As we learned in the Gluten Monster video, bread dough also contains a carbohydrate in the form of starch. Although it's more work for the yeast if you make a recipe with little or no added sugar, the yeast will begin to break the starch down into simpler sugars, which it will in turn transform into carbon dioxide. Inside the bread dough, where there is no oxygen, yeast will also create an alcohol as it breaks the sugar down. Since yeast and gluten are spread throughout the bread dough, tiny balloons of carbon dioxide gas are formed throughout the dough, causing it to rise. When the dough is finally placed in a hot oven, it rises even further as the gas expands. Additionally, the alcohol that has also been created by the yeast will get hot and evaporate. Just like water expands when it turns into a gas, the evaporating alcohol will expand, causing the bread to rise even further. Let's put this on a time-lapse video, and we'll see just what happens. Here's a closer look at the results of the Ravenous yeast. As it rapidly feeds on the sugar, thousands of tiny carbon dioxide-filled bubbles rise to the surface. Let me slow this video down for a better view. Hopefully now you understand how yeast, gluten, and the heat of an oven work together to create delicious bread.